Hello teachers, welcome to Para Maestros podcast. This is the English version. Para Maestros means for teachers only. Here we will have Latin America and from the perspective of other teachers from around the world. We will have opinions, interviews, and lots of information about education, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to Para Maestros podcast. This is the English version. This podcast explores the evolving landscape of education. I am Carolina.
And I am Juan. Today we are diving into a particularly relevant topic in our increasingly interconnected yet paradoxically divided world. Beyond borders, global citizenship in a divided world.
Yeah, that's right. In previous episodes, we discussed how teachers have difficult situations, fostering critical thinking and approaching history from different perspectives. Today, we'll explore how educators can help students to develop a sense of global citizenship despite the geopolitical tensions.
We'll be looking at real examples of teachers connecting students across political divides and sharing practical strategies for building empathy and understanding in the classroom.
So let's start.
So Carolina, what exactly do we mean when discussing global citizenship in education?
That's a great question to start with. Juan, global citizenship education goes beyond teaching students about the different countries and cultures. It's about helping students to understand their place in the interconnected world and develop skills, knowledge, and values they need to engage in a global citizenship. And I have an experience with that because I work in China, and once we were in a professional development program. And the person who was teaching us, he was from Singapore. I remember that. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about interconnecting global citizenship and da, da, da. And we were all focused on the differences. We all were focused on the differences. So I was talking about my country, how different it is from China and how different it is from the United States and how different. And then there was a moment and he said, why we are always looking at differences in our cultures? Why don't we try to focus on the similarities? Mm-hmm. So similarities are important because that makes us connect more. The differences divide us. The similarities would connect us. And that stuck with me. Since then, every time I teach something about education around the world or global citizenship or things related with that, I will think about, or I will ask students to find similarities instead of differences. So I think that stuck with me, and now I'm doing it like by default.
UNESCO defines global citizenship education as aiming to empower learners of all ages to assume active roles locally and globally in building more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive, and secure societies. It's about equipping students to thrive in a diverse world and contribute to collective well-being.
Exactly. And that's become particularly challenging now. Perhaps even more important today's political divided landscape. In 2022, a report regarding our futures together highlight that schools need to better prepare students to navigate complex global challenges that transcends the national boundaries. That's so important.
It's very important, yes. What's interesting is that research from the Pew Research Center shows that while 86% of teachers believe it's essential to teach global citizenship, only 30% feel adequately prepared to do so, especially when addressing continuous geopolitical issues.
Yeah, it's hard to teach this topic when you have a world that is divided, and we got this information from all the sources, and how can teachers develop that? And the gap between intention and preparation is exactly what we're focusing today in this topic. Okay, teachers are being asked to prepare students for being to a global society while navigating complex political tensions that affects their students directly, their lives directly. So something that we are not prepared for, or many teachers don't know how to do it. And as I said before, I was teaching differences. Oh, in this country they do this, in this country they do this, how different we are. And I think that focusing on similarities is much better. that's something that I learned in my experience.
in your experience. And I want to ask you about your experience in the United States
Yeah.
because I think you were in a multicultural classroom or in a multicultural environment.
Hmm.
Uh, how was that in the United States when the Americans had a strong nationality, a strong feel of nation,
Hmm.
and
Patriotism, yeah. They're very
yes,
patriotic.
patriotism. Yes, that's a word.
Hmm.
Thank you. And how was how was the experience when you teach as a South American teacher teaching
Uh,
in the States? And how do you connect what you were talking about, the similarities between the cultures?
Yeah, that was a very interesting experience because we were the first group of teachers, foreign teachers that came to that town. It was a little town, and everybody was like intrigued about us. But the most important thing is for us, we have this responsibility to like put a good face to our countries that have really bad reputation. So
Mhm.
we, as teachers, what we did, all of us, were showing our culture and how rich we are in the culture, in the culture part of it, our food, everything related with ourselves. And also what I think, and I definitely think this is the most valuable part, is that the students were exposed to teachers from other countries.
Mhm.
So the students were finding that there is a people they didn't know, they were little, so they didn't know that there were other countries, and they didn't know that there were other people from other countries that speak other languages.
Yes.
So for them to be
So
exposed
they didn't know that there were other countries, other
at,
cultures.
at the age of they were no much. It's not a concept they really have developed yet at
Okay.
that age. So that was like impressed for them. They felt they were the coolest because they were with the Spanish teacher. So they
Uh-huh.
felt they were the coolest. And with the time, they learned the similarities that we have as teachers, as humans, and the exposure that I definitely think is the best. Expose children to teachers from around the world. We
Mhm.
were in that school, we were teachers from, of course, Latin America. We got Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, Costa Rica. And we got teachers from the UK. We got teachers from Jamaica. We got teachers from basically district UK, Jamaica, and New Zealand. And these kids had this opportunity to see the human part of the name of a country. Because the country is a name, it's something foreign until you see the person in front of you.
And what were the similarities that you talked to your students between Colombia and the United States?
We were talking about the human part. Okay, we all have feelings. Kids like to play. The kids like to do things together. Going to school, things like that, like simple things that they can relate with.
Mhm.
The something that happened that was really funny. It was like I had to. They were talking. It was Christmas time, and they were talking about Santa Claus and is Santa Claus real? Is Santa Claus not real? Is Santa Claus real? And I was like, oh my goodness, how do I solve this problem? And they were like looking at me, is he real or not? And I was like, I don't know. In Colombia, we don't do that. We the one who gives the gifts is Jesus. And they were like, oh, it was a way to get out of the
Yes.
situation, because at this age, that dream of having somebody bringing some magic, bringing your things is different. But later I explained, well, we actually have our parents helping with that, and our parents go and buy the things, and we change it a little bit. But that was something that I remember, it was funny, and for them it was like, oh, so they understood how different we celebrate Christmas too. Christmas is different also. But
Uh-huh.
at that moment,
But we all celebrate Christmas, and
but
that's
in a different way. Actually, we always celebrate Christmas in a different way. But I like that. I like that we have for me was the exposure to teach my students who I am, and where I come from and what happened in my country. And the kids were like amazed. Of course, I show them the beautiful landscapes and, the fruits and things that we have here, there. And we made arepas together. I gave them the arepas and here, you made arepas and we made arepas.
The
And
classroom?
things like that in the classroom, yes.
Ah, nice.
So things like that were interesting, and the district promote these events where Latinos could share things about the country. We have a stand, and kids came and enjoy the food and enjoy the fruits and things like that. So that was a good event. They dance. I taught them how to dance cumbia.
Mhm.
So things like that. So that is a way to teach global citizenship. Just connect them with people that are there. And I think that's what we're going to talk about in this episode.
Very,
Connect
very
with the
interesting.
people. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's when you are teaching to kids, it's um easier to teach them that we are part of a global citizenship
Mm-hmm.
or at
For
least we are part of a humanity. It's better when they are growing. It becomes even more difficult to
mm-hmm.
make them
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, that's so funny. The kids know, for them is a normal thing. A person from another country, duh, not a big thing. It's just they feel cool because people are, oh, your teacher is from that country, but they don't feel that is an normality. They feel cool, but it's not a normal. Uh, it's nice, it's fun, it's different. Sometimes they were confused because my English wasn't really good, so they were like, huh, huh. But I was teaching Spanish, so I was like, say it in Spanish. So for them, it was a plus. And of course, I encourage schools to teach a second language, or hopefully with somebody from that country, especially it's
What about
Spanish.
the parents?
Oh, the parents,
Oh,
parents came with some ideas of the countries because they have more access to the news of the news that they had. So, but they were very respectful because they saw the progress in their kids,
mhm,
and the reflection of how good or bad a teacher you are the students actually. The students will show how happy they were or how much they've learned and how their Spanish growth. And the facts that I taught them, they were like amazed to see their kids learning as much. And again, being the face of a country that you have an idea of, it's better because you have the person in front of you,
mhm,
have that person. So it's different that you see the news about all these situations that happen, or these people are marked this way or are stereotyped this way, until you see the person and you see, oh, this is a human being in front of
mhm,
me from that place. That human being can give me that information a little bit better from, of course, individual perspectives. But I think that makes the families to be more aware of what happened in our country and around the world, but also to give faces and
mhm.
humanity to that.
Yes.
So that's what I felt very beautiful. It was beautiful though.
Okay, that's one that's a good strategy. Possible to have teachers from other countries
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah, well,
Mhm,
like an example is even in example in China is even more rich because you don't only have people from Latin America like it was in the United States. The case was Latin America, Jamaica, and the UK. In China, you have people from literally around the world, Africans, Indians, that it was really near, Philippines. We also have people from Middle East, Europe from the Middle East. We had people from around the world. So it was much even more for me
mhm,
as a person
mhm,
because I learned of names of the countries I didn't know. I learned that in Africa there are people that speak Spanish, things that I haven't even think about because I've never met a person from certain countries. So that was even better for the students also because they got to experience accents, they got to experience languages, they got to experience cultural activities from these different people. So I thought it
mhm.
was much better in that sense, of that, because they bring people from around the world. And I met people, different countries, different perspectives, different ideas. And then when we talk about politics, we could talk about politics. I could talk about from my perspective, and they could talk about from their perspective. So that was nice to see and give face to that country. That before it was like, oh, we don't know what it is or what happened or what do they do, and also from different religions. Although religion is not a big thing in China, uh, people can practice their religion in their own community, especially foreigners. And I could ask questions to the Muslim women. I could ask questions to the Jewish. I could ask questions to the Buddhist. I could be in understand what is their perspective. So it was really rich when I was there. And of course, for the students, maybe not as much because, of course, we don't talk about religions in schools, but the kids will notice things like, for example, the Ramadan. They will notice that the teachers might not eat at that time during the day. So they learn that, oh, that happened in some places. So some people do that. So they have a little experience on the religion part. But I felt like China had opened the spectrum for me, like a lot of more people from around the world, different accents. We all spoke English though, but but different accents, different ways to express themselves, ideas of the country, speaking about everything and everybody, and it was very interesting though.
Yes. Okay, so look at some concrete examples
Yeah,
of who's doing this work effectively, even across significant political divides.
yes. One powerful example from the Generation Global program, originally founded by Tony Blair, Institute of Global Change, this initiative has connected over 230,000 students across 30 countries through facilitate video conference and online dialogues. That's a good example that people can use.
Yes, what I found particularly remarkable about this program is its ability to bring together students from regions with historical tensions. For example, it has facilitated exchanges between students in Pakistan and India, and Israel and Palestine, and across various divides in the United States.
Yes, and these have an assessment there. And in 2021 impact assessment of the program showed that 91% of participant students reported increased respect for those with different viewpoints. And 87% felt more confident discussing sensitive topics. So teachers reported that the program helped transform classroom dynamics around difficult conversation. As I said before, if you have the person in front of you, even the division is already there. They might know it, but they might understand it, they might not, but they can have respect for that person.
And it's just what we were talking about, that kids understand easier that there's no political divisions or political borders.
Exactly.
Another notable initiative is the Global Nomads Group's Students to World program, which creates collaborative learning experiences between students in the different countries. One teacher, Hiba Nabilsi, I think this is the pronunciation of her name, from Jordan, partnered her high school class with students in Detroit, Michigan, to address water scarcity issues in both communities. Very interesting.
Very interesting, right? So if you can speak about it in both communities, oh, you have water scarcity. Oh, we have water scarcity. Oh, really? We are in different parts of the world. Yeah.
How do you deal with this?
Yes. What made that collaboration effective was that it wasn't just about cultural exchange. It was about working together in real problems affecting both communities through different ways. You know, students learn and they had more in common than they expected.
Okay, the Bridges NatWas project by International Education and Resource Network is another powerful example. After the escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine in 2022, is carefully facilitated educational connections between students in both countries.
Exactly. So those are the programs that help students. Teachers in that program reported that keeping those student-to-student connection alive focused on shared interests and concerns rather than political divisions, provide an important counterbalance to broader geopolitical narrative. You know, we have this narrative that we all kind of follow, and when we see people from that country, you notice something different. Something that I want to point out here is when the Russia and Ukraine started, I got friends from both countries in China.
Yeah.
When I was living in China, both countries, I got friends from both
Uh-huh.
countries. We were in a painting, we have a painting club kind of, and we met and start painting. Like for us was like meditation. We were painting and talking and painting and drinking tea. It was fun. And when they have these, they have to talk about this situation, and they were like very polite. They were having their statements done, and they were talk from both points of view, and but there were never tension and nothing aggressive from each other. They were having a conversation, although they're all women though. That's something I don't know if it should be point out, but they were having a friendly conversation about what was happening when
Mm-hmm.
between Russia and Ukraine at that moment.
And
And
Ukraine and Russia were part of the same country. So
yeah, they were.
where in the past they were brothers. They were
And they
they were
were
part of
treating,
the
yeah, they were
same.
they were they were the way I saw the conversation, they were treating themselves very fairly, and they were very good listeners to each other. So I thought
Mhm.
that was nice to have this conversation when you have a war coming up or just starting. It was when that happened, the first strike that happened in between Russia and the Ukraine. Hmm.
Very,
So
very okay. These organized programs offer valuable structure, but individuals, teachers also do incredible work. Esmeralda Cardeñosa, high school social studies teacher in El Paso, Texas, developed a cross-border classroom exchange with Ciudad Juárez in Mexico school. Um,
yeah, wow.
very, very interesting. And I have other experience in here in Colombia with a teacher from uh, Medellin
Mhm,
who she creates a classroom with students from the United States and from England,
mhm.
and they exchange letters and they did many other activities.
That's
Fun,
nice.
very interesting.
Yeah, and back to the past. What was especially notable about this approach is this Miss Cardeñosa didn't just talk about borders
Hmm.
or the division between Mexico and Texas. They
Hmm.
connect the community's issues.
Yes.
So rather, they encourage students to research about different perspectives and engage in a dialogue with their peers across the border. So that is an interesting. I don't know how can do if they are still doing it and if they're doing it
Oh
now
yeah.
at this moment, because that's something interesting for them to the students to experience, to know that across the border, across that imaginary line, there's
Mhm.
people. So
And
interesting.
and especially in that border between Ciudad Juárez and Texas, they had a common history as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because in the past, the border, of course, the border existed and have always existed. But in a moment, people could cross, especially from
Yes.
the from Mexico
States,
to the
Mexico,
north. They could cross
and
because
go
they
back.
were there,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a common culture, especially in the food, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
music. They share those. I think I mean particular things of the culture of each culture. So
Yes.
we have a common history, so it's now it's a good way to connect again.
And
Uh,
remember that. And remember that. Her documented, actually, her case was documented in the 2023 case of study in the Journal of Teacher Education, which
Mhm.
highlighted how her students develop more nuanced understanding of migration issues and move beyond the polarization rhetoric they were exposed in the media. So that teacher was doing something amazing.
Another teacher making a difference is Mohamed Kab Kahaloui in Tunisia. Kahaloui in Tunisia, who partnered with the Virtual Exchange Coalition to connect the students with peers in France, following terrorist attacks in both countries. Students worked through initial stereotypes and fears to develop personal relationships and collaboration projects. These examples, Carolina, have in common that fact they don't pretend divisions don't exist. Instead, they create structured opportunities to students to engage meaningfully across those divides.
Yes, and they all emphasize relationship building before tackling contentious issues. So they
Mhm.
don't start like, oh, you have an issue, we have an issue. No, they have to build the relationship before they start talking about their issues. So the research consistently show that creating human connection
Mhm.
first makes a difference when difficult conversations appear. So this is important, is what I'm saying to you. We were talking before. It's like when you see the person,
Mhm.
things change. That things change absolutely. Like I learned, I met somebody from Iran,
Mhm.
and he was talking to me about. He was a teacher too. He was talking to me about his Kurdo from the Kurdistan,
Mhm.
and he was talking about the history and the situation and everything. This is a very interesting history, and I was like clueless. No, I was like, what? No idea, because I was asking, where are you from? He always said Persia. Why did you say Persia? And now later, because I met him, I understood the history. I understood
Mhm.
the what happened around the culture and the community, and I also researched about it.
Mhm.
Not only what he said, but I was like, okay, I want to learn more about these people and this person, and that was interesting because otherwise I wouldn't have the chance to meet somebody, or maybe I have, but I would never discuss it. So that was very interesting, very, very interesting, and learn history without learning history.
Yeah. Okay. Building on these examples, let's talk about the specific approaches to
Mhm.
fostering empathy across divides. The Empathy Project at the University of California, Berkeley, had identified several evidence-based strategies for developing empathy across group differences.
One of their findings is that perspective taking exercise can significantly reduce the prejudice
Mhm.
when they are combined with actual contact or exposure to life experiences of others. This is something the teacher can facilitate without international exchanges. For example, we are in the same community, but we have different perspectives. What don't we say or we speak about these different perspectives and listen to each other? And then we can get closer and connect and maybe be more empathic.
Mhm. And it's just what the social media don't allow to us to share different perspectives or
Mhm,
different points of view.
mhm,
That's why we think that we are in a part of an algorithm that we think that what our opinion or my opinion is the real, and we
mhm,
never consider the opinion the
mhm.
others.
Yeah, something that the algorithm is doing is dividing us because, as
Mhm.
we said before, I think in another episode, they give us what we want to hear. I want to hear about this, then they will give me that. And that's a big problem.
Other example is Amina with the Tata Trust Digital Equalizer program in India has shown how digital storytelling can help students develop empathy for different experiences, even within their own communities.
Yeah, students in this program created a digital stories about local issues from multiple perspectives, which help them to recognize the complexity of these issues, develop more empathy and more empathic responses. So they make a story about the issues that they have, but they look all other perspectives. Quite
Mhm.
cool. I think we can do this in any school.
Mhm.
Look at that issue and look at the perspectives.
Yes. Okay, other example is the Global Oneness Project. Offers free
Mhm.
multimedia stories about cultural, environmental, and social issues. Teachers can use these resources to expose students to diverse perspective when direct exchanges aren't possible.
Yeah, and what is valuable about this approach is that each story comes from teaching materials designed to foster empathetic engagement rather than simply learning about facts and cultures. This is the culture, this is the fact. No, we want to learn about the people and how they feel about certain issue.
Another effective strategy comes from Dr. Shay Foxman's research with the Education Development Center. He found that a guided engagement with news media from different countries helps students recognize how the same events can be framed differently based on a geopolitical context.
Oh, this is great. This approach doesn't just tell students what to think, but help
Mhm.
them to become more critical consumers of media narratives. Students learn how to ask questions like, who created this content? What perspective is missing? And how might someone from different background interpret this differently? So looking at the media, same event, different media, different countries.
Mhm.
That's lovely.
Different context. Yes, it's good. And even nowadays, or with the actual situation with the fake news, it's very
Yes.
important to bring real news, at least,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
this material to the classroom and analyze this material with the students. These media literacy skills are crucial for navigating our information landscape. The news literacy projects has found that the students who develop these skills become more thoughtful about global issues and less susceptible for
Susceptible.
misinformation generally.
Yeah, misinformation is something that we all have. And I think because we were not born in the media or social media era, we can get trapped into misinformation very easily. It's important to mention the work of Dr. Mears Keels at the University of Chicago, whose trauma response educational practice project emphasized that building empathy requires creating emotional safe classroom environments, especially
Mhm.
when discussing issues that might affect students, families, and communities.
Oof,
Very
that's
important.
very important.
Mhm.
Emotional education is very important, and uh, I think, is the pedagogy of the future.
I think so. Yeah.
It's a critical point. Global citizenship education isn't abstract for many students. It touches on their identities and experience. Teachers must be mindful of
Mhm.
students with personal connections to conflicts or political tensions uh, being discussed.
Yeah. And but let's go to the practical part of teaching, right? We need to
Mhm.
give teachers some practical ideas. So let's find some practical. Do you have any practical advice?
Yes, I would recommend that facing history and our self-organization kills contracting before engaging in potentially divisive topics. Work with the students to establish shared agreements about how discussion will be conducted
Yeah. So
when the
first,
when the topic is uh, it's very sensitive for that.
yes, that's a very interesting thing because they need to have like some certain rules and certain things that they could,
Mhm.
manage and how to manage it before having these discussions. Also, these could be include guidelines. We can have like guidelines for students, like speak from your own experience rather than generalize. I really like this one because I feel very upset when people generalize. I don't know why it's something like, oh, why do you generalize? Oh, all Chinese are, all Colombians are, all Americans are. That's not true. And I always point out the statistics. If you have 1.6 million people in your country, or you have 58 million people in your country, they cannot be all the same. They cannot think all the same. There's similarities. We have certain things in common in our culture, but we don't generalize something that is very, I'm passionate about it. And I always point out when someone is generalizing, sometimes I do generalize and I realize, oh, this is not okay. Don't generalize, because it's something that I guess it's a default way to speak. Everybody says, oh, these old people, because I think generalization hurts communities. Not everybody is the same. So understanding that is important. At least it's personal to me.
It works for daily life, not only
Yes.
for classroom. You don't have to generalize.
Exactly. You can actually make contracts with the students and talking about that, how to speak in a different way.
These contracts create this physiological safety needed for authentic engagement with difficult topics. They also model democratic process and give students ownership over learning environment.
Yes, very important. Another practical approach is using structured dialogue protocols. The Essential Partners Organization has developed the dialogue guides specifically for navigating politically divisive issues in educational settings. So there's some protocols to follow, so you cannot, you don't get the, to the fight because of what I feel. So there's protocols that you can use, and I will put some links in the description so you can download them.
Okay, the reflective structured dialogue approach includes strategies like a paired listening exercise, where students take turns speaking uninterrupted for a set time, while their partner simply listens, not to respond, but to understand. In Colombia, there is a technique that comes from indigenous cultures that is called in English the circle of word or dialogue, a circle of dialogue. It's basically a very similar approach that we are talking to. Is a you speak, the person who leads the circle, they he gives a stick or a marker or an object, and this means that this is that you have the word that you can speak, that you can express your mind. This symbolize that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
And the others can
not interrupt.
That's very, very strict and very, very useful.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that. I use the technique for remember when we talk about conflict solutions and conflict resolutions, that I have one chair for an ear, one chair has a mouth, and they have to sit and solve their issue. When it's little kids, that strategy would maybe would be something that we can use with others. Like if you are in the chair that has a mouth, you can speak. And the other one, it is in the ear chair, cannot interrupt, have to wait. And then they switch, and then they could solve the problem that way, because that you guarantee that you'll be listened to and the other person is also listening. So protocols slow down conversations and create space for reflection, which help to move beyond rehearsed talking points or authentic engagement. So you know that somebody, when you're you against something and you want to, you have rehearsed in your mind what to say. But when you have this protocol and you have to listen to the other, that rehearsals go out, because you're listening to something very authentic, and then that will help students to understand more.
For teachers looking to incorporate global perspective into existing curriculum, the Asia Society Centers for Global Education offers free standards, aligned lessons plans across subject areas. Very interesting to bring this Curriculum.
These resources help students to make connections between local learning objectives and global contexts. For example, math lesson might incorporate with data from different countries, or literature unit might include authors from foreign relevant current events. Perfect.
For schools with limited technology resources, the Out of Eden Learn project developed by Project Zero in Harvard Graduate Schools of Education offers low bandwidth options for connecting students across contexts. This slow-looking approach encourages deep observations and reflections rather than rapid content consumption.
Yes.
It works for Latin America, I think, especially in rural areas.
Yes, and I've seen in the Project Zero, Harvard has these thinking routines that I love, and some of them are just to discuss global issues too. So they also have some thinking routines for that. Even simple practices like regularly incorporate news from different parts of the world or maintaining a global map where the content events are tracked can help expand students' awareness beyond the immediate context. So you can have different types of maps. You know, there's a controversy with how the maps were drawn, and now we know that the countries are not as small as they portrayed in the map. So you can have different sorry, no maps, but maps from different perspectives too. And that would be cool. I remember in the 4th grade, a teacher, I went to her to see her classroom, and she has a global map, and they were talking about religions. And they were having this interactive map where students could put things, pin the map, have a pin on the map, and add some information from that country and what religion they were discussing. And I didn't know that how many religions that were existing at that moment when I saw this map, and I was like, okay. So that's great for students, and I love that. I think I have a picture of, I'll find it. I think I have a picture from that interactive activity that she did.
Yes, very interesting because it maps also shows there is a geopolitical perspective. It's about power. It's not an objective perspective. So I think it's what we have in common, or what we share to understand how the world is divided. But it's just what the students must to understand is that is part of the power, that is part of a geopolitical perspective.
Let's look at digital platforms.
Okay, like Flipgrid allow for asynchronous video exchange, which can work around time zones difference and technical limitation for international collaborations.
That'd be
It's
good.
interesting.
It's asynchronous. You can record it, and then someone can see it when they can. Cool. As the teachers that are concerned about navigating politically sensitive topics, the Tena Boom Center of Interreligious Understanding offers resources especially for addressing contentious issues in ways that promote understanding rather than division.
There are 7 principles for inclusive education provides that framework for helping teachers create inclusive learning environments while navigating potentially divisive.
And finally, I recommend teachers start small, build gradually. Don't go all the way down. Relax. You don't need to transform the entire curriculum overnight. Even introducing regular reflection questions, like how might this issue be from different perspective or any different context, can help you to expand with different perspectives, or helping students with different perspectives. So start slow, teachers, start slow.
So step by step.
Yes.
Okay, while we have shared many positive examples and strategies, we should acknowledge that this work comes with real challenges.
Absolutely. Teachers often face pressure from various stakeholders when addressing topics perceived as political. A 2023 survey in PEN America found that 30% of teachers reported avoiding certain topics due to concerns about the backlash from parents and administrators.
Yes, it happens.
Mhm.
There are also structural constraints. Schools schedule standardized testing requirements and limited professional development opportunities can make it difficult to implement global education approaches effectively.
Yeah, and access to inquiries persist. Schools under-resourced, communities that often have less access to technology and support need international, or they don't have international help. So they can start slow, maybe email. I remember doing an email exchange with another teacher from another country to
Mhm.
do something like that. Like maybe that will help when you have
Oh,
no much resources. That's a big issue under resourced communities.
mhm. Okay, these challenges are real, but they shouldn't discourage teachers from taking steps toward more globally minded education. Even small moves toward expanding students' perspectives make a difference.
Yeah, and it's also noting that research consistently shows parents across political divide actually share many educational values. The collaborative of academic, social, and emotional learning found that large majorities of parents, regardless of political affiliation, want schools to help students to develop skills to like respecting others and understand different cultures. So we still there's a lot of media talking about how we don't want to others to see differences or understand other cultures, but I think the majority of the parents want the kids to be more respectful and more understanding. As wrap up today's discussion, I'd like to emphasize that global citizenship education isn't about promoting any particular ideology. It's about develop the skills students need to engage thoughtfully about the complex world they live in.
In many ways, it's difficult expanding the circle of concern and consideration, helping students recognize humanity across divides without erasing difference or complexity.
Yeah. For teachers listening, remember that you don't need to have all the answers or perfect
Mhm.
solutions to global challenges. What matters is that creating spaces where students can engage authentically with multiple perspectives and develop their own informed views. That's the most
Mhm.
important thing.
Yes, and while technology can enable powerful connections, the most crucial element is that human one, the curiosity, empathy, and critical thinking that teachers foster in the classroom every day.
Yes, we do. We do. Before
Mhm.
we close, let's wrap up with some key strategies. Establish shared agreements before engaging in potential or divisive topics. Structure dialogue protocols, facilitate meaningful exchanges. Connect global issues to your existing curriculum. Start with relationship building before tackling content issues. Provide multiple perspectives on the complex topics and create emotionally safe spaces for students.
Okay, so thank you for joining us for this episode of a Para Maestros podcast. Remember, in a divided world, often emphasize division. A classroom can be spaces where students learn to connect across different while developing the knowledge and skills they need to be informed as a global citizens.
Mhm. And join us for our next episode, The New Digital Divide. Very interesting. We're going to talk about how technology can divide us. Okay,
Mhm,
so stay tuned for that. Don't forget it.
mhm. Until then, take care. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening, teachers. Stay curious. Connect with me on social media and explore my website. All the links in the description below.